we need to talk about Assassin's Creed Shadows and seeing people being very disingenuous about the sales numbers for this upcoming game. Now, granted, we don't know what the sales numbers could look like, but this is something I noticed on Twitter. Coming from Legendary Drops, he says, do you really think AC Shadows is going to be a Baldur's Gate 3, Elden Ring, or Wukong level success? Given the likely $300 million plus budget without marketing, likely more since the delay, Shadows must sell 7+ million. Otherwise, it won't cover its costs, nor will it cover up all the other financial failures. How many must they sell to make up for Skull and Bones, Prince of Persia, X Defiant, Beyond Good and Evil 2 stuck in development hell? Comparing Assassin's Creed Shadows sales numbers is almost like comparing that to Grand Theft Auto 6 sales numbers. Like, that's not even in the same ballpark. Like saying, oh, will it outsell Elden Ring? Will it outsell Wukong? Wukong sold 20 million copies. Like, I don't think there's not a single Assassin's Creed game that sold 20 million. Like, that's being real disingenuous here. Same could be said for Elden Ring. Elden Ring sold a gazillion copies. Baldur's Gate 3 sold what, 30 million? Like, be realistic here. And he was talking about the budget. Like, bro, nobody cares about the budget for this game. I've never understood why people want to care about or fake care about the budgets for games, because I could assure you there's plenty of games that never made its budget back that were still really good games, historically speaking. If you want to go all the way back to like the 360 PS2 era, will this game make up for all the other failures that they've had? I mean, granted, has Ubisoft put out stinkers? Have they been, putting themselves in a little bit of a hole in a corner? Absolutely, to the point where you have to rely on Shadows to be successful. I'm not saying Assassin's Creed Shadows will sell a gazillion copies. All I'm saying is look at history and then do the math. These RPG games specifically have all sold 10 million plus. Valhalla made Ubisoft billions by itself. So let's do a little bit of number crunching. If we know Origins sold 10 million, and at the time this was still when games was $60 each, then ever since Origins, these RPG Assassin's Creed games have made over $500 million by themselves. This would just be the sales figures for Origins. Then if you add the same dollar amount with Odyssey, you get like $1.2 billion or something like that. And if Valhalla made billions by itself, standing on its own 2 feet, the point I'm trying to make here is once a certain franchise reaches a certain dollar amount, then it's gonna always make that money. Once Grand Theft Auto got into the stratosphere where it's at now, where it's gonna be a guaranteed hit based off the money. Like, hell, they're expecting that game to sell billions day one, which who would be shocked if it did? Now, granted, the flip side to this is there might be a possibility this game flops. And the only way I would consider this game a flop if it was to sell about as much as Mirage sold, which I think the estimations was 5 million, around that ballpark. But that game by itself wasn't bad considering the size and the scope of the game. But for an RPG Assassin's Creed game, if Shadow sells 5 million or less, that is a disaster. That means a lot of heads are going to roll because of that. And that's going to have Ubisoft start to think, maybe we should start going back to the old formula of making Assassin's Creed games, considering those games sold around 5 million or a little bit more. And let's go a little bit higher. Let's say it don't sell 10 million, but it don't sell 5, and it sells somewhere in the middle where it's like anywhere between 7 and 9. It would be the weakest selling RPG, but they would still look at it like, well, it still made us some money, just not all the money. They'll use the usual talking point of it sold below our expectations, even though a lot was riding high on it. But even if this game was to underperform by 1 million copies or 2, I don't think that would be enough to have heads roll completely. You might see some layoffs at the studio. You might see some people get fired or put on different things. but that's it. Nothing more, nothing less. Now, if it sells 5 million or less, yes, heads are gonna roll. And also, people need to keep an eye out for this in the future. Ubisoft has a track record of if a certain game doesn't sell a certain amount compared to the last game, they're not ever going to talk about the sales numbers. They never talked about the sales numbers with Mirage, even though people kind of did a little bit of digging and estimations of it being 5 million, even though Ubisoft didn't publicly admit that. It's been estimated to sell 5 million ever since. Ubisoft is one of those people that if Mirage don't sell about as much as the RPG creators, they're not even going to talk about it. They'll just do the thing that they did and say, oh, well, we had our players pet 10 million cats, or they chose different paths, or this, that, and the third. Like, they're not going to outright say the sales numbers, unless if it had sold way more than it expected to. Now, granted, Assassin's Creed Shadows is something I am still looking forward to. It is arguably going to be one of the most controversial Assassin's Creed games to release to date, and not in a good way either. But y'all let me know what you think about this in the comments below. Till next time, I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace.